The second largest diamond to be cut from the Cullinan is in the imperial state crown.
Something extraordinary is reportedly unfolding behind the palace gates, and it could mark one of the most significant royal decisions in decades. As concerns surrounding King Charles's health continue to spark intense speculation, reports claim the monarch has signed an emergency order placing the responsibility for the crown jewels solely in the hands of Catherine, Princess of Wales. From priceless diamonds to centuries-old symbols of royal authority, the treasures of the monarchy are now at the center of a stunning development. Is this simply a precaution, or a powerful signal about the future of the throne? So, what do you think this decision really means? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and uncover the latest royal drama, please subscribe. The King's hidden preparation. For months, one reality has quietly shaped almost every major decision coming out of Buckingham Palace. At the center of it all is King Charles and the health battle that has forced the monarchy to confront difficult questions about the future. This is not simply a story about age or a king slowing down. In early 2024, what was expected to be a routine medical procedure led doctors to discover cancer. While palace officials confirmed the diagnosis, they chose not to reveal the exact type.
From Buckingham Palace, which has announced that the king has been diagnosed with cancer.
The only detail made clear was that it was not prostate cancer, meaning doctors had uncovered a separate and unexpected condition that immediately changed everything. Almost overnight, the king's schedule was adjusted. Public appearances became less frequent, royal duties were reorganized, and attention turned toward his recovery. Across Britain and beyond, people watched closely, hoping for positive updates. Then came a message that seemed to offer reassurance. During a televised appearance in late 2025, Charles spoke openly about his treatment.
King Charles says he can reduce his treatment for cancer in the new year, and it's because of an early diagnosis. The king spoke about his experience with cancer in a message that just aired on British TV earlier this hour.
He explained that, thanks to early detection, medical care, and adherence to doctors' instructions, the intensity of his treatment would be reduced in the coming year. Many saw those words as a sign that the crisis was ending. But there was one detail that stood out. The treatment was being reduced, not completed. Reduced, not finished. There was no announcement declaring victory, no confirmation that the illness had disappeared. Reports continued to suggest that the king's condition remained a serious concern behind palace walls. And when viewed through that lens, some of the monarchy's recent decisions begin to look very different. That is why the latest developments surrounding Catherine may be far more significant than many people realize. The announcement regarding the crown jewels did not appear out of nowhere. Instead, it seems to be part of a larger pattern of responsibility being quietly transferred to the next generation. One of the clearest examples emerged in 2025 when Prince William and Catherine were invited to become grantors of royal warrants. To many outside Britain, the move may have sounded ceremonial. In reality, it represented something much bigger. Royal warrants are among the monarchy's most influential endorsements, allowing businesses to display official royal approval. For years, those decisions rested with the King and Queen Camilla. By extending that authority to William and Catherine, Charles effectively handed over a portion of royal influence long before many expected him to. The move was historic for another reason. Catherine became the first Princess of Wales in more than a century to receive such authority. Not even Princess Diana held that privilege during her time in the royal family. That alone was enough to spark intense discussion among royal watchers. But according to insiders, it was only the beginning. Because if granting authority over royal warrants raised eyebrows, what happened next, involving the tiaras, the jewels, and the message they sent, was even more extraordinary. In a family where every gemstone tells a story, could the jewels now be revealing a secret plan for the monarchy's future? Let's reveal every detail. The jewels speak volumes. In the royal world, appearances are rarely just appearances. Every necklace, every brooch, every tiara carries a deeper meaning. These pieces are not simply beautiful decorations locked away in palace vaults. They are symbols of authority, continuity, and power. The royal family understands this better than anyone. Behind every public appearance is careful planning, and every item worn sends a message to those watching. That is why royal observers paid such close attention when Catherine stepped into the spotlight at the state banquet held at Windsor Castle. It was not merely her elegant appearance that captured attention. It was the remarkable choice of jewelry resting on her head. The Princess of Wales appeared wearing a historic tiara that had remained out of public view for nearly 2 decades, a piece so closely tied to royal tradition that many never expected to see it worn by anyone other than a reigning queen. The significance of that moment was impossible to miss. This was not a modern accessory selected for fashion. It was a treasured piece woven into generations of royal history. For years, it had been associated with some of the most powerful women in the monarchy. After making only a rare appearance during Queen Elizabeth II's reign, it quietly disappeared from public view and remained hidden away. Then, without warning, it returned, this time on Catherine. For royal experts, that decision spoke louder than any official statement ever could. It suggested confidence. It suggested trust. More importantly, it hinted at a future already being carefully prepared behind palace walls. And this was not an isolated moment. Over recent years, Catherine has increasingly been seen wearing pieces once considered beyond the reach of a princess. Historic jewels linked to queens, treasured items from the late queen's collection, and heirlooms carrying centuries of royal tradition have gradually found their way into her public appearances. Each event seems to reveal another layer of responsibility being placed upon her shoulders. Jewelry historians have noted how she has managed to transform these ancient treasures. Pieces that once belonged to another era suddenly appear fresh and relevant when worn by her. Yet this is about far more than style. The growing access to these priceless heirlooms reflects something much deeper. It suggests a carefully managed transition, one designed to familiarize the public with Catherine as a future central figure of the monarchy. The jewels are becoming more than accessories. They are becoming symbols of a role she is steadily growing into, one appearance at a time. But if the tiaras and necklaces already carry such powerful messages, what does it mean that Catherine is now being entrusted with something even more significant? Could this responsibility reveal plans the palace has not yet made public? Stay glued to your screen, because the answer may change how you see her future forever. Guardians of the Crown. But to truly understand why this development has caused such intense discussion behind palace walls, you have to understand what is actually being protected. Many people picture the crown jewels as little more than sparkling objects displayed behind glass for visitors to admire. The reality is far more significant. The crown jewels represent one of the most extraordinary collections of royal treasures anywhere in the world. Kept inside the ancient Tower of London, a fortress that has watched over centuries of British history, the collection contains tens of thousands of precious gemstones. Yet their importance goes far beyond their financial value. In truth, no expert can place a meaningful price on them because they are woven into the very story of the monarchy itself. Among the most famous pieces is the imperial state crown, worn by the reigning monarch after the coronation ceremony. Every gem, every detail, and every symbol on that crown carries a story stretching back through generations of kings and queens. Some stones have witnessed wars, political upheavals, and dramatic changes in the nation. Others are connected to rulers whose names still echo through history books today. Then there is St. Edward's crown, perhaps the most sacred item in the entire collection. Reserved only for the moment of crowning, it represents the formal transfer of royal authority. When King Charles III was crowned, the use of this historic crown linked his reign directly to centuries of monarchs before him, reinforcing the idea that the institution continues regardless of who sits on the throne. The collection also includes the sovereign's orb and scepter, objects that symbolize both spiritual responsibility and royal power. The scepter contains one of the most famous diamonds ever discovered, a stone so remarkable that it has become a symbol of monarchy in its own right. Nearby rests the controversial Koh-i-Noor diamond, a jewel whose history continues to spark debate around the world, carrying stories of conquest, empire, and contested ownership. Recent additions to public displays have only renewed interest in these priceless treasures. But what makes them truly important is not their gold, their diamonds, or their dazzling appearance. Their real power lies in what they represent. They are visible proof of continuity. They connect the present monarchy to centuries of tradition. They serve as physical reminders of legitimacy, authority, and national identity. That is why responsibility for safeguarding these symbols carries enormous weight. Whoever is entrusted with overseeing them is not simply protecting valuable objects. They are protecting the very symbols that help define the crown itself. And now, according to growing reports and royal observers, that responsibility increasingly places Catherine at the center of an unfolding story. A story that has many wondering whether this is merely about royal duties or preparation for something much bigger. As Catherine's influence appears to expand behind the scenes, another question refuses to go away. The abdication whispers growing louder. But are these rumors simply speculation, or do they point to a royal transition already taking shape behind closed palace doors? Keep watching to find out. The royal transformation. This is where the story becomes far more complicated, because it sits at the crossroads of confirmed facts and growing speculation. Separating the two is important, but even the confirmed details are enough to raise serious questions about what may be happening behind palace doors. What we know for certain is that King Charles continues to undergo cancer treatment. While there have been encouraging updates about his progress, there has been no official declaration that his battle is over. The king's health remains an ongoing concern, and that reality has shaped many decisions within the royal family over the past several months. At the same time, palace officials have openly acknowledged that Prince William and Catherine have taken on responsibilities that traditionally come much later in a royal career. These are not small ceremonial duties. They are significant roles that place them closer than ever to the center of royal authority. Then there are the reports that have fueled intense discussion among royal observers. According to claims from royal insiders, conversations about the future of the monarchy are no longer viewed as distant possibilities. Instead, some suggest that planning for the next chapter may already be taking place behind the scenes. To be clear, there has been no official announcement of any abdication. No formal timetable has been released. No public statement has confirmed that King Charles intends to step aside. Those facts matter. Yet the actions taking place in public continue to attract attention. Prince William has increasingly carried out duties that were once considered the exclusive responsibility of the monarch. He has represented the crown at major events, hosted important gatherings, and stepped into roles that place him at the forefront of royal leadership. With each appearance, the impression grows that he is being prepared for responsibilities that extend far beyond those of a typical heir, and Catherine's role has expanded alongside his. That is what makes the decision surrounding the crown jewels so remarkable. These are not ordinary royal possessions. They are among the most treasured symbols of British history and monarchy. For centuries, they have represented continuity, authority, and the enduring power of the crown itself. Generation after generation has protected them. They have survived political upheaval, national crises, wars, and dramatic changes in British society. Through it all, their importance has never faded. Now, that responsibility has reportedly been placed in Catherine's hands. Think about how extraordinary that really is. Not long ago, critics dismissed her as an outsider who had married into royalty. Some questioned whether she truly belonged in the institution at all. Yet today, she stands at the center of decisions involving some of the monarchy's most valuable and symbolic treasures. That transformation did not happen overnight. It was built through years of patience, discipline, loyalty, and a careful understanding of what the royal role demands. The woman, once viewed by some as simply Kate Middleton, has become one of the most trusted figures within the entire royal household. But perhaps the most fascinating question is not why Catherine was chosen. The real mystery is how her path seemed to prepare her for this moment long before anyone realized it. So was this responsibility years in the making, hidden in plain sight all along? What was Catherine's remarkable journey, and why was she always ready? Let's take a look. Built for royal duty. For years, many people have described Catherine as someone who simply found herself swept into royal life and gradually adapted to it. It is a convenient story, but it leaves out a great deal. The reality appears far more complex. Long before she became Princess of Wales, Catherine had already shown qualities that would later define her public role: discipline, commitment, and a willingness to work behind the scenes without demanding recognition. Born in Berkshire in 1982, she grew up far from the ancient traditions of the monarchy. Yet those who knew her before royal life often point to the same characteristic: reliability. While helping with her family's business, she was not merely observing from the sidelines. She reportedly contributed directly to projects, helped develop products, and took part in the day-to-day work that kept the company running. It was an early sign that she preferred action over attention. That mindset would become even more important once she entered royal life. Over the years, she steadily built a reputation for careful preparation, patience, and consistency. Then came one of the most difficult periods of her life. Following major surgery, she later revealed that she had been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing treatment.
However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy.
The announcement stunned the public and sparked an outpouring of support around the world. For months, questions surrounded her absence. Yet when she eventually returned, it was not with dramatic speeches or grand declarations. Instead, she resumed her duties with the same measured approach that had always defined her. Public appearances gradually increased. Major state events followed. Before long, she was once again standing at the center of some of the monarchy's most important occasions. What made those appearances especially striking was not simply that she had returned. It was the role she seemed to be playing. As King Charles faced growing health concerns, Catherine increasingly appeared as a symbol of stability and continuity. Historic jewels once associated with queens began appearing on her. Major speeches returned to her schedule. Her presence seemed larger, more significant, and harder to overlook. Royal commentators began describing her as one of the institution's most valuable figures, not merely because of popularity, but because of what she represented: trust, permanence, the future. And that brings us to the extraordinary responsibility now linked to her name. The guardianship of the crown's most treasured symbols is not simply about safeguarding priceless objects. It is about protecting history, tradition, and the very identity of the monarchy itself. Such a responsibility is rarely handed out casually, especially within an institution built on centuries of protocol. So, why would such immense trust be concentrated in one person? And what does it reveal about plans that may already be taking shape behind palace doors? To answer that, we need to look beyond the jewels and into something even more fascinating: the constitutional mechanics, how this works. What hidden within those rules is a detail so surprising that it could change the way you view Catherine's future forever. So, stay glued to your screen. The legal royal system. One question keeps coming up again and again. Can a king really do something like this? Can King Charles simply sign a document and place responsibility for something as important as the crown jewels into the hands of someone who is not yet queen? The answer is more surprising than many people realize. Unlike some countries that operate under a single written constitution, the British monarchy functions through centuries of tradition, precedent, and royal authority. These long-established powers give the reigning monarch significant control over royal matters, especially when they involve ceremonial symbols, royal property, and the institution of the crown itself. In simple terms, Charles has the authority to make decisions regarding the monarchy's most treasured symbols. From a legal and historical standpoint, naming Catherine as guardian of these priceless royal items is entirely possible. What has caught attention is not necessarily the decision itself, but the way it was carried out. Traditionally, responsibilities of this magnitude are passed on quietly over time. There are usually no dramatic announcements, no formal directives, and certainly no rush. Everything tends to unfold gradually behind palace walls. Yet this situation appears different. The decision was reportedly formalized, documented, and given official weight, rather than being left as an informal understanding. That detail matters. When a monarchy takes the extra step of putting something into an official order, it suggests a desire for certainty. It suggests preparation. It suggests that palace officials may view future developments not as distant possibilities, but as realities that require planning today. To understand why that is so significant, it helps to look at the extraordinary history behind the crown jewels themselves. For centuries, these treasures have stood as symbols of royal continuity. Even when the monarchy faced its darkest moments, those symbols survived. During the 17th century, following the fall of the monarchy, many royal treasures were destroyed, melted down, or sold off in an attempt to erase the institution altogether. Yet when the crown was restored, new regalia were created, and the tradition began again. Through civil conflicts, political upheavals, world wars, changing governments, and historic royal transitions, the jewels remained at the center of the monarchy's identity. They endured when empires rose and fell. They remained when rulers came and went. There was even a famous attempt to steal them centuries ago, a daring act that became part of royal legend. Since then, security surrounding the collection has become increasingly sophisticated, reflecting their immense symbolic importance. But perhaps the most remarkable detail is this. Throughout all those centuries, guardianship of these symbols traditionally passed directly from one sovereign to the next. That chain remained largely untouched, until now. Because for the first time, the path appears to be changing, and that raises an entirely new set of questions. Questions that lead directly to the issue many royal watchers cannot stop discussing. The Camilla question, and why this is more complicated than it looks. If Catherine is being positioned for such a historic responsibility, what does that mean for Camilla's place in the royal picture? And is there far more happening behind the scenes than anyone has been told? Let's find out. The Camilla factor. There is one part of this story that many people seem to be overlooking, and it may be the most revealing detail of all: the Camilla factor. On the surface, the situation appears straightforward. Camilla is the king's wife and the current queen. Logically, many would assume that if responsibility for important royal symbols were ever assigned to a woman within the family, she would be the natural choice. Yet reports suggest attention has shifted elsewhere, and that raises an important question. Why? The answer may lie in the future direction of the monarchy itself. Over the years, Camilla has worked hard to secure public acceptance. What once seemed impossible gradually became reality. She earned respect, carried out royal duties, and established her place within the institution. But there has always been one undeniable reality at the heart of the royal family. The monarchy's future does not rest with Charles and Camilla. It rests with William and Catherine. That distinction matters more than ever. When the next chapter of the monarchy begins, William and Catherine are expected to become its central figures. Any long-term planning inside palace walls naturally revolves around that future. Seen from that perspective, placing greater responsibility in Catherine's hands today starts to look less like a routine decision and more like preparation for what comes next. Some royal observers believe it reflects a desire for continuity. Others see it as a deliberate effort to remove uncertainty before a major transition eventually arrives. Either way, the timing has fueled intense speculation. What makes the situation even more intriguing is the palace's response, or rather, the lack of one. Normally, major royal milestones are accompanied by explanations, background briefings, and carefully crafted public messaging. Yet this development has unfolded with remarkable silence. There have been no lengthy clarifications, no detailed justifications, and no obvious effort to explain why such an important step was taken now. Inside royal circles, silence often speaks louder than announcements. The lack of explanation has encouraged observers to search for answers elsewhere. Some believe the palace simply wants to avoid unnecessary attention. Others suspect the decision forms part of a much larger strategy already taking shape behind closed doors. Reports have also described occasions where William and Catherine appeared ready to step forward seamlessly whenever circumstances required it. Those moments may seem small on their own, but together they create the impression of a royal couple increasingly positioned at the center of the institution's future. And that leads to an even bigger question. If Catherine is already being entrusted with responsibilities normally associated with the next era of the monarchy, could her influence be growing far faster than the public realizes? Why does Catherine seem to inspire such extraordinary confidence inside palace walls? And what is it that senior royals may already see in her that the public is only beginning to notice? Stay glued to your screen. The Catherine effect. There is another side to Catherine's growing role that often receives far less attention than the headlines about royal titles, jewels, and palace responsibilities. Yet in many ways, it may be just as important. It is the enormous cultural and economic influence she has built over the years. For more than a decade, Catherine has demonstrated an ability that few public figures possess. Whenever she appears wearing a particular outfit, accessory, or piece of jewelry, public interest immediately follows. Stores frequently see products sell out within hours, sometimes even minutes. What began as a fashion trend eventually became known as the Kate effect, a phenomenon that has generated significant attention for British designers, retailers, and brands around the world. Her influence extends far beyond clothing. Catherine has become one of the most recognizable faces of the modern monarchy, shaping public interest in everything she touches. From charity initiatives to national events, her presence often draws attention on a scale few other royals can match. That influence has become even more valuable as her responsibilities have expanded. When discussions began about her role in granting royal warrants, many experts pointed out that businesses would likely view her endorsement as one of the most sought-after marks of approval available. A royal warrant already carries prestige, but Catherine's popularity adds another layer of value that businesses understand very well. The same principle applies to the crown jewels. For years, many of these historic treasures were viewed primarily as museum pieces connected to Britain's past. Yet whenever Catherine appeared wearing items from the royal collection, global media coverage followed. Photographs circulated across newspapers, television broadcasts, websites, and social media platforms. Suddenly, jewels that had spent decades out of the spotlight became subjects of worldwide fascination once again. This matters because the crown jewels are more than beautiful objects. They are symbols of history, continuity, and national identity. By wearing and presenting them to modern audiences, Catherine helps bridge the gap between centuries-old traditions and a new generation raised in the digital age. At the same time, her growing prominence comes during a period of significant uncertainty for the monarchy. Questions surrounding King Charles's health continue to shape discussions about the institution's future. In response, the royal family appears to have taken deliberate steps to ensure stability. Over recent years, Catherine has been entrusted with increasingly important responsibilities. She has taken on larger public roles, participated in major state occasions, received historic privileges, and become one of the monarchy's most trusted representatives. These developments suggest a carefully planned effort to place her at the center of royal life. What happens next will depend on many factors, including the king's health, future decisions within the palace, and the evolving needs of the monarchy itself. What is clear, however, is that Catherine is no longer viewed as a supporting figure. She has become one of the institution's central pillars, carrying responsibilities that reflect both trust and preparation for whatever challenges may lie ahead. So, what do you think about King Charles's decision? Is he on the right path? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.